Oh, we spoke about how long the candles have to be alight for. The Hanukkah candles have to be alight for at least a half an hour after nightfall. Yeah, Hanukkah, imagine. They have to be alight for at least a half an hour after nightfall, and the issue that we touched on yesterday, which is something which is really rather important, is that the Hanukkah lights on Erev Shabbos need to be alight for an awful lot longer than that, right? Because actually that's not true what I just said, and absolutely nobody realised that it didn't make any sense. The Hanukkah lights on Shabbos have to be alight for a half an hour after nightfall as well. The problem is that we're going to light them an awful lot earlier than we do normally, and that means that you're going to have some kind of either a candle or oil that's going to last long enough to get you through at least an hour and a half.
If it's 30 minutes after nightfall, does that Erev Shabbat? Does that mean before you bring in Shabbat?
Yes. We'll talk about when you're supposed to, exactly what you're supposed to light first, whether the Shabbos candles or the Hanukkah candles. Okay, first of all, like this, when are you supposed to light the candles within which time frame? So the emphasis is like this: you've got all night to light the candles, but in order to light the candles in the optimum fashion that you should fulfill the mitzvah in the very best way, you need to try to light them within a half an hour after nightfall. The reason for that is that the original mitzvah was people used to start going home after it got dark, and the first half an hour after dark, so people were still wandering around in the streets before they went home. And if you did it after that, there was no Pisumei Nisa. No one's going to be able to see the miracle because everyone was in their homes already. So the best way to fulfill the mitzvah is to light the candles as soon as you can, as we spoke about yesterday, either right before sunset or as soon as you can after nightfall, in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvah. If, however, you cannot do that, you've got the whole night to be able to fulfill the mitzvah in. However, if you're coming home late, now today, life is not like it was all those years ago. In the olden days, people went to sleep pretty much after it got dark and they woke up when it got light. Nowadays, with the advent of electric light, which I believe we have now in this room as well, let's just hope that the hamster doesn't stop running around on the little generator over there. But today, people are wandering around the streets much later than they did in the olden days, which means you can definitely fulfill the mitzvah of lighting the candles later on as well. If, however, you come back very late, so let's say we're talking about sort of 11 o'clock plus, when things are normally pretty quiet, certainly in residential areas, then if you want to fulfill the mitzvah of lighting the candles, you should really, if needs be, you should really wake somebody up inside of the house so they should be able to see the miracle, right? To be able to see the mitzvah and to publicize the miracle. Before you've lit the candles, you should try to avoid starting a meal. Right? This is one of the few times in the Jewish year where we are telling you should not eat.
No, you do that every Shabbat.
Yeah.
What?
You can't bring a Shabbat until you lit the candles.
You can't. Yeah.
Don't worry.
No, the thing over here is that you're not supposed to sit down and eat a meal before you've lit your Hanukkah candles, because there's a concern that you might, get caught up in eating your meal and you'll forget to light the candles. You won't light them at the right time, right? So it's actually, interestingly enough, and this is something which I imagine is much more pertinent to you people than eating the meal, it says that you should try to avoid sitting down and learning Torah at exactly the moment you're supposed to be lighting the Hanukkah candles, because you might get so completely absorbed in your Torah learning that you'll forget what it is that you're supposed to do. They tell stories about people. It's the most incredible thing. The Meshech Chochmah, Rav Meir Simcha from Dvinsk, who died just before the Second World War, whose concentration was so incredible that once he started learning, it was almost impossible to interrupt him. It was like impossible to get his attention. And his wife testified that on many occasions, in houses in Eastern Europe, the ceilings were pretty high, and in order to, if you had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, in order to get to the high bookshelves, there were ladders. You could climb up the ladder in order to get there. And his wife testified on many occasions that he went up the ladder to get a sefer out of one of the higher bookshelves, and he started looking at it whilst he was on the ladder, became so absorbed in what he was doing, and she would come into the room and see him sort of like holding onto this ladder with just one arm and like one leg, completely absorbed in the learning. And she said on many occasions she was convinced that he needed to make the bracha Birchas HaGoimel, which is what a person has to recite when they're in a dangerous situation, because it was very dangerous what he was doing. So it is true, maybe not here in this room, but it is true that the possibility of becoming absorbed in your Torah learning may actually stop you from fulfilling the mitzvah. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, in the Orchos Tzadikim book, on the chapter on Torah, it mentions that studying Torah is more important
than all the other mitzvahs. Yeah.
Especially if it's not from the Torah specifically.
Yeah. So the Indian is like this. What it's saying is like, first of all, it's teaching us a concept, right? Orchos Tzadikim is teaching us a concept. The Torah learning is paramount to everything, right? We're taught that if Torah is not being learned 24 hours a day, then the world will cease to exist, right? Which means that, no, I just made it up, but it sounded good, no?
Yeah.
Convincing.
If you say things with enough conviction, my father used to tell me that the more conviction people say things with, the less they know what they're talking about.
Did your father actually say that?
Yeah, he said it with a lot of conviction, though. Like he really sounded like he meant it.
That when my mum and dad used to say, "I love you" to me. No, I'm joking. That's not funny. That's not really
In your dreams.
not funny.
So Orchos Tzadikim are teaching us a concept, really the most fundamental concept of all, which is Torah learning keeps the world in existence. However, the Torah also teaches that if you have a mitzvah that you can do, that no one else can do it right now, then you need to stop learning Torah in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvah.
I think you probably went over this one of the days before this day. But
That was very eloquent.
when was the first Hanukkah celebrated?
The first Hanukkah
As a holiday.
as a
It's
holiday,
the end of the Hanukkah story.
Maybe in the Hanukkah.
do you know, that's interesting.
2,000 years ago.
But in Purim, you see, in the Megillah in Purim, it says that the year after Purim, they started celebrating Purim already. Right, in the Megillah that appears. The question, when did they start celebrating Hanukkah? I assume that it was probably the year afterwards.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? It's an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe ask Rabbi Wine. Does Rabbi Wine come around here?
No.
Does he? He doesn't teach in here anymore?
But I can
So
Oh.
No, he doesn't teach.
didn't you say that they started celebrating victories the day after the victory took place?
The Hanukkah is a commemoration of the end of the fighting. Right? Which means on the first Hanukkah that when it was actually happening, they weren't celebrating Hanukkah. They didn't know that that's what it was going to be. Right? It unfolded every day was another miracle and another miracle until it came to an end 8 days later. The question over here is when did it get turned into a festival? Right? I don't. You know what? I'll try to look it up. I don't know.
So Hanukkah became a festival, so potentially could Israeli Independence Day become a festival in the future?
I think in theory.
Yeah.
Right? The rabbis got together again. It requires a certain level of, the people that introduced the festivals of Hanukkah and Purim, which again you weren't here, but we spoke at the beginning. They're considered to be the two minor festivals because they don't appear in the Torah. They're rabbinic. They were they were the Anshe Knesset Gdolah, the men of the Great Assembly. They were on the highest possible levels of scholarship, and they had Ruach HaKodesh. They had divine inspiration. Is it conceivable that at some point in the future there'll be other, rabbinic, will the rabbis be able to introduce other festivals? I mean, in theory, it's possible. I think, when the Mashiach comes, is it conceivable that certain days will be turned into festive days, even though they don't appear inside of the Torah? I think so.
There's a website. It's called istodayajewishholiday.com. So you just go on it and it says no, or it just tells you the holiday.
Okay, good. Very good. That sounds like a very important website to have. Just, you should know, yes, today is Rosh Hashanah. Oh, good, okay, good.
So the other question I had was, so in the some people say that Avram and the forefathers were and the patriarchs were keeping the commandments and holidays they celebrated Pesach. So would they celebrate Hanukkah?
Right, it's an interesting thing. First of all, I think the first question over here is why are they called the forefathers when there's just three of them? Isn't that odd?
Because
But we do talk about the 3 foremothers, so I guess that's okay, no?
3 foremothers.
The 3 mothers. Pardon? Anyway, the Gemara says that Avram Avinu kept Kol Torah Kol, he kept all of the Torah, including rabbinic mitzvahs. Now, does that mean that Avram Avinu kept Hanukkah? I've never really thought about that. That's an interesting question. It really is. Also requires a little bit of research, I think. I've never come across a source which talks about Avram Avinu keeping Hanukkah.
and but then he would also technically keep any holiday that in the future, if a rabbinical council like of holy rabbis got together and passed new, so he would be keeping those too, right?
I guess so.
Because it's like
I guess so. Yeah.
We should ask him about Mashiach.
I don't know.
What days?
It's an interesting question. I'm really not quite sure actually.
So we should go back in time.
I mean, I think sometimes I feel that's what we do in this class actually.
I bet Rabbi is a time machine.
He is a time machine.
It's true. I mean, we just went back to the beginning of the week because we discussed all this stuff on the first day.
Why did you say that, Hannah? Why did you say that, Hannah? I don't know, anything like that.
We'll get Mitzvah Hashem. We're going to get to it here. If you're lighting with oil, right? The best way to light your Hanukkah lights is to light with olive oil. We spoke about what kind of olive oil is the best kind of olive oil to use. Something called Shemen Zayit Zach, which is clear. It is pure. What I guess is called today, virgin olive oil. If you can do that, that's good. Rabbi Elyashiv ruled that Zach means clear. Right? Rabbi Elyashiv ruled that it's better to use olive oil that is edible. Some olive oil is oil that's used. It's used in order to use for lights, in order to use for Shabbos candles. It doesn't have to be edible. Rabbi Elyashiv said there was an Indian of beautifying the mitzvah, of making it more, making it even finer tuned by using olive oil that is edible. And you should use, if you make your own wicks, so you should use flax is normally the best thing to be used in order to make your wicks, or cotton. Other possibilities. You can buy little kits. So the kits have got enough wicks to keep you going. They normally come in 2 different fashions. They either come with a little cork floater, and the one side of the cork floater is covered in aluminium foil, and it's got a little hole in the middle, and you put your wick through that, and you float it on top of the oil. The other kind that you've got has got 2 little crossbars of metal, and the wick that sits on top of the glass cup, and the wick sits in between the 2 of them. The clearer your olive oil is, the less smoke it's going to generate. My father-in-law, he should rest in peace, but my father-in-law used to make his own wicks, and he used to make them with cotton wool actually. And it's interesting. Like, as Hanukkah went on, he was less careful about exactly how much effort he was putting into these things. So at the beginning, each wick was very carefully rubbed until it was a nice shape. By the time he got to the 3rd or the 4th day, he was just shoving wads of cotton wool into the cup, which was soaking up the olive oil at the most incredible rates, and it was billowing out black smoke everywhere. So that's not the best thing to be doing. It really isn't. The best thing to do is to have a good, clean, clear flame, and the best thing to use is cotton or flax as your wicks. The color of the oil, interestingly enough, has got nothing to do with its quality. It's to do with which olives it comes out of. Different olives have different colored oil, slightly different. You'll see differences in oil, even in high quality oil, going from very clear, golden colored, all the way through to dark green. Right, that's got a lot to do with the olives that are being used. So don't be too concerned about the color itself. If you're using candles, so like I said, you can use candles. That's not a problem. Using the little curly colored candles that are, you know, the sort of like the things that many people are probably familiar with from Hanukkah back home. That's okay. You just got to be careful on Erev Shabbos. They're not going to be long enough. They're not going to last long enough, which means you've got to use a different kind of a candle altogether. The candles are supposed to stay alight for half an hour after nightfall. What happens if they go out for whatever the reason?
You relight them.
You can relight them. It's preferable to relight them. It's not obligatory, but you should not make another bracha, which means you made a bracha over the original lighting and now they've gone out, even though they're supposed to stay alight for half an hour into nightfall. But if they didn't, just relight the candles and don't make another blessing over them. The blessing that you recited is going to cover the relighting as well. If you're using candles, you should use uniform candles, which means that if you're using candles, they should all start off at the same height, right?
Shabbos might be an issue then.
Oh, so just use bigger ones.
Hey, fine.
Right, you'll find in anyone who's using candles, you can find anywhere that's normally selling all the Hanukkah paraphernalia, right? You'll be able to find candles that are sort of like this long, made out of beeswax. They smell they smell good. Okay, they don't smell good. I don't know. You gave me a look when I said that. You don't like the smell of honey.
I was just listening intently. That was
Oh.
That was my look.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've never seen that one before. Okay.
It can be overwhelming.
Obviously, you've never listened intently before.
I've listened very intently. I just keep changing my looks.
Oh,
I try to keep you on your toes.
that's what whoever marries you will say they marry you for your looks, huh?
Well played.
Thank you.
That is
Huh?
That was good. I like that.
Is
Got some
Zach,
pretty good
you know
ones.
how he said to clear?
Zach. Shemen Zayit Zach.
Shemen?
Pure olive oil.
Zach is spelled Zion.
Chof.
Alright, cool.
Chof. Final chof.
Okay.
Ken. No.
I'm
Barbie. Okay.
Barbie.
Actually, when my first grandchild was born, my wife wanted to be a Barbie. And I thought I was going to be called Ken, but apparently I'm Zadie instead. So whatever. That's got nothing to do with anything. The candle. You'll be able to find candles that are much longer. So hold on a second. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. So the fourth night of Hanukkah is going to be Erev Shabbos, and that means that you need to buy 4 long candles in order. If you're using candles, 4 long candles in order to have them long enough to last through the prerequisite amount of time. You should try to the best of your ability to light the candles and not move them once they've been set alight. Which means like this, you need to set things up. If you're using oil, so you need to know something about oil. Oil lasts a long time, right? Now you could buy these little sort of glass cups that you can sit inside of your menorah. And you should know that for most of the evenings, except for perhaps Erev Shabbos, you should add some water into the cup as well. The oil will sit on top of the water. Of course, oil doesn't sink; it floats. You can put, perhaps fill it up depending on how big your cup is. You can add in, a third of water, half of water, and then just put in the olive oil. Otherwise, your lights are going to be alight for hours. Now, you could have them alight for hours if you want. It's very pretty. It's very beautiful. But there's no necessity to have to do that.
You can use wax candles.
You can.
Oh.
You can use wax candles.
not with Willow Best.
Pardon?
But no Willow Best.
What?
If I knew what Willowbast was, then I would try to answer that. But
Is that in the thing from
Glad we're on the
Kabbalah
same page, Rabbi.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
really know.
All the things they say in Kabbalah Shabbat, like, we should not light with this. Are these
oh, Willow, really? What on earth is Willowbast in Hebrew?
I don't know. That's
You should teach the
that's a translation.
Good. Okay. Well, whilst you're busy
So, like,
looking that up,
so for Erev Shabbos, do we need different candles?
you need longer ones
Well,
or thicker ones, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, right? Something that's going to last you long enough that they're going to stay alight for an hour and a half.
what if we light with one of those things?
What?
Those things that we're not supposed to like just shut.
I don't know. What is it? What is it? I'm interested to know what willow bast is. Okay. In the meantime, here is a halacha which is going to be applicable to some of the people sitting here. Children
Yay.
who have not yet reached the age of maturity, which for some of you may still be applicable when you're in your 50s. It's children over the age of bar mitzvah. We mentioned they're obligated in lighting the menorah unless they come from a Sephardi home, and then only one person is lighting anyway for the entire family. However, children under bar mitzvah, so they should be lighting a menorah as well. What's the reason? In order to teach them the mitzvahs, which means that children under the age of bar mitzvah have a din, they have an obligation to learn how to keep the mitzvahs in order to be ready when they become bar mitzvah to do them properly. However, if there's any risk, chas v'sholem, of fire, you know, if the child's not, you feel the child is not old enough to be able to do this, then don't, right? If you're concerned that this child may have pyromanical tendencies, then keep them away from the fire. That's really doesn't need to be said, but as I've learned over the years, most things that don't need to be said should be said pretty often. Yes. You've got a rather
No, it's a simple one.
yeah, no, but you've got this grin on your face. It's, it might be simple, but it's obviously.
You have all your kids first light, and then you say together Haner Salalu.
Oh, what do I do?
Why you like your?
Oh, why did you have that evil smile on your face when you asked that? It was. I was expecting something different. What do we do in my family? And we'll talk about Haner Salalu when we get to it. But what we do is that each person lights, make the brachas, and then they say Haner Salalu as they're lighting the candles.
Right,
And
the kids,
mouse,
small kids. My kids are like 3 and 4, you know. So do it together with them.
Oh, so I think you should light yours first, actually,
Right.
and say Haner Salalu, and then say it together with them afterwards. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying it over and over. That's for sure. If you can't light the candles for yourself, for whatever the reasons, so let's say, for example, your eye-hand coordination is not exactly what it's supposed to be, or there's some other reason why you might not be able to. I mean, the best way is for you to light the candles for yourself, but if you can't do that, you can have somebody light for you, and it's best to have the person present. Right, it's best for you to be present when the person is lighting for you, but if that's not possible, it's also possible to light when you're far away. Somebody can fulfill your obligation. So, for example, all kinds of questions that arise, for example, people that are traveling, right? So you've got to, in the middle of Hanukkah, you're going to go traveling one late afternoon, your flight is leaving early evening. As far as I'm aware, unless they've relaxed the aviation laws, you cannot light your menorah on the plane, not even inside of the bathrooms, because they now have smoke detectors in there. And anyway, you've got to stay in there for half an hour, and that might bother the people who are trying to, who need the bathroom or who need to light their menorahs as well. I don't know. I don't know how many people you can get into one of these tiny little bathrooms on the aeroplane.
Is there like a latest? Because I have that situation because I'm flying back for the next weekend. Is there a latest time on Thursday night? Is there a latest time you can actually light it?
When are you leaving?
Thursday night.
When?
Like, I don't
Where
know
you
the exact time.
Approximately.
Like, it's
Where you
probably
going?
7 o'clock to London for the weekend.
Oh, that's
Wait a second. So you're leaving. What time do you have to be in the airport?
Weekend.
Like 4.
At 4. So that's too early.
So close.
He misses the holiday here.
I'm going for the weekend because it's my best friend's wedding.
That's not an
Oh,
excuse.
Mazel.
Rabbi, tell him.
Indeed.
What?
Good luck.
Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth.
I
It's
don't
not just
I
your
don't-
best friend, it's
I
your
don't-
only friend.
I don't like Rabbi Laufer's classes. Therefore, I thought,
When's the wedding? On Sunday?
Yeah,
That's very nice. First of all, you should only go for simchas, and that's a shame. You should only go for good things.
thank you.
That's very nice. Wait, you're leaving on hold on a second. He's leaving on Thursday evening.
Yeah,
So like this, if you were leaving, let's work this backwards, right? If your plane was leaving later on,
yeah,
and you were able to light here in Jerusalem at the regular time, right?
yeah.
Stay half an hour after nightfall and then go to the airport, which would be a possibility for some flights that leave later, then that would be great, right? You fulfilled your obligation. If, as it sounds like, you've got to be down at the airport before it gets dark,
Yeah.
right? Then that means that you are going to. What are you going to do? Well,
just
you
light
have
it?
you have two. There's a problem with lighting in the airport. There's a problem because that's not where you live. Although,
just wait till I get
who are
home.
you traveling with?
Just me.
Which airline?
Allow.
El Al. So it might very well be your. It might be very well where you live because if they don't leave, then you'll be stuck in the airport.
True.
Good point. Okay, if you're going El Al, now the chances are they will leave. You've got Chabad down there, which
Yeah.
means that they're for sure. Right, they'll be lighting over there for sure.
Fine.
I think that you can probably be Yotzi through their candle lighting. However, if you're going to get in, if you're leaving at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
which means that you're getting in at
eight something.
8 something, which means you'll be home by
9.
let's say 9.
Oh no.
No,
9:30,
10:30, let's say. I would actually suggest that the best thing to do is to light when you get home, even though it's a little bit later on, but there'll still be people up at home, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be able to make the brachos, they'll answer amen to your brachos, and you'll be able to light the candles, and then you'll have the Pisume Nissa over there in your home. I think that's the best thing to do. If it looks like you're going to get home very late,
Yeah.
the truth is even then the people are still going to be up, right? Somebody's coming to pick you up. Probably not, actually. They're probably hoping you won't be coming.
Yeah,
but
exactly. No, my parents are away.
your parents are away.
Yeah.
Oh, so who's going to be? Is somebody home?
No.
No one's home. You're home alone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. That changes things. Hold on a second. There's no one. There'll be no one at home to watch you lighting the candles.
No.
No.
Friend over.
This is Alex we're talking about.
Already illegal.
This is a nice, right?
Oh yeah, so if you leave, they'll get you.
Yeah, they'll get
It's
me.
a big one. No.
No one's.
No, I could do stuff. I could
They
go
won't
to my
do
aunt's.
anything, though. They want me right here. It is real.
Just cancel your flight.
Yeah.
No.
Just leave earlier.
I think maybe Gabriel is right. If you could have a friend sleep over that night,
Okay, fine.
that would definitely take care of the problem.
I'm sure they'll have lots of fun.
So you just need an observer.
Friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, an international one.
I've read about these screens.
Okay.
What if somebody's invited for Shabbos? For, let's say, so Friday night.
You think you're in
Where are you? Wait, Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to get to that. Where are you supposed to eat?
No.
Where are you supposed to light your candles?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You'd be Yotze.
We'll get Mitzvah Hashem. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. Before we get there, hold on. Okay, brachas. Rabbi Isai. Brachas.
Attention.
Baruch atah
Shh.
Hashem.
Good, very good. On the first night, I think I just said the first, didn't I? On the first night of Hanukkah, you're supposed to recite 3 brachas,
First night of Hanukkah, my trilogy.
which for some people is
Inappropriate.
not. For some people, it's not applicable.
What are you looking at me for?
I'm not. I'm just commenting. The idea of some people having a true love is anyway. We're on the first night. On the first night of Hanukkah, there are 3 brachas that are recited. The first one is Ladlik Ner Shel Chanukah. Right? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Ladlik Ner Shel Chanukah. Right? You'll find the brachas in the Siddur. If we had Patrick here at this moment, he would whip out his Siddur and tell us exactly what page it was on. The second bracha that you recite is Bayamim Ha'im B'zman Hazeh. So we say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. She'asa nisim la'avoseinu, who made miracles for our forefathers. Bayamim ha'im, in those days. Bazman hazeh, up to today, which means that we'll talk about the bracha in a minute. The third bracha that is recited on the first night is Shehechianu. Right, the bracha of Shehechianu, which is recited when you do something new that you haven't done for a long time already. Here we haven't lit the Hanukkah candles for a year. We're now coming to light them, so we say Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'gianu lazman hazeh, that we give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for having reached this moment.
Technically, it's less than a year.
It doesn't matter. It's actually more than a year because we had 2 Adars last year.
Really?
Yes.
Do we have 2 Adars this coming?
No, we don't. just to confuse you.
Thanksgiving was crazy last year.
After the first night, when you come to recite the blessings, you recite only the first two. You do not recite Shechianu again. Once you've recited Shechianu, you're done. You don't have to say it again. You should know that if you forgot to recite Shechianu on the first night, you can recite it on the second night. Even though you've already recited the brachas on the first night and you fulfilled the mitzvah, nevertheless, you can recite the Shechianu again on the second night. There is the most incredible story that is told about the, I think it was a Bluzhev Rebbe, one of the Hasidic Rebbes who was in the camps, and it came to Hanukkah time, and they managed to secrete a little bit of this and a little bit of that. They were going to make a candle lighting inside of the bunk, right inside of the barrack that they were in. They were going to make a candle lighting, and they took some fibers. The wicks were made out of fibers from the clothing that they wore. The fuel that was going to be used was a little bit of shoe polish that they managed to steal, and they put it inside of some kind of a container. And the Bluzhev Rebbe was given the honor of lighting the candles and making the brachas on the first night of Hanukkah during the Second World War, during the Holocaust. And there were lots of people crammed into the barracks in order to be able to witness this. And he made the first two brachas, he paused, then he made the third bracha Shechianu, and then he lit the Hanukkah candles. And afterwards, somebody came up to him and said to him, Rebbe, he says, how could you make the bracha Shechianu here in this camp? How could you make that? Because the bracha Shechianu v'kiyimanu v'gianu lazman hazeh is that we're thanking God for having brought us to this moment. So he said, how on earth could you recite Shechianu here in the concentration camp? And the Bluzhev Rebbe said, I had the same question. He said, I don't know if you noticed, he said, but I paused after the second bracha. I paused before I started reciting the Shechianu. I waited. And I did not know, he said, I didn't know what to do. He said, because I felt exactly the same way. He said, and I looked behind me and I saw all the people crammed in there only to witness the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. He says, and I realized that a nation that are prepared to put their lives in danger in order to be able to watch the lights being lit is a nation that we can recite Shechianu over. You want to know how to make Hanukkah applicable to your life today? Somebody asked that question before, right? How do we take this story of Hanukkah, which took place thousands of years ago, and how are we supposed to turn it into something which is going to touch on our lives today? That's going to be found within the blessings themselves. When we say She'osa nisim l'avoseinu bi'amim ha'em bazman hazeh, that the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrought, not just for our forefathers way back when, but also for us every single year. We're not commemorating Hanukkah. We're supposed to be reliving what it is that Hanukkah brings into the world. Hanukkah brings into the world the ability to, I apologize for using the word, it's a pun, right? But to ignite our souls and to turn ourselves back into what we're supposed to be. And the power of Hanukkah is there. It's all just waiting in order for us to tap into it. And that's what Hanukkah is all about. And that's why we make the bracha of Shasta Nisim Lavaseni B'Amim Ha'em, that it wasn't just then. If we were doing this simply because of something that took place way back when, then we wouldn't be commemorating Hanukkah. We really wouldn't. We're not just doing this because of a story that took place way back when, but we're doing this because it's got a practical impact on us today as well. Right? That's what Hanukkah. Otherwise, we don't keep things simply because they happened once, and it's like a good idea to just to keep it because.
Torah is eternal.
Thank you. That was beautiful. The Torah is eternal, and the Torah is applicable to us every single moment of every single day. Bless you. We are going to stop over here.